Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Sequels, prequels, remakes, and reboots are all terms you may come across when talking about films. A sequel being a movie that takes place after the events of another, a prequel being a movie that takes place before the events of another, a remake being a movie based on another, and a reboot being a movie that tends to throw continuity out the window with a new fresh start. But it doesn't always feel so new and fresh. This might seem like it's an issue with modern filmmaking, but it's been around for a long time and it's not always an issue. Some of the greatest films of all time have been sequels. And even remakes have shown that retelling a story can produce great results. Arguably, the first reboot was The Return of Godzilla in 1984, which, despite being the 16th movie in the Godzilla franchise, completely ignores the events of all films in the series aside from the original 1954 Godzilla. In 1979, we had Butch and Sundance, The Early Days, one of the first films to be known as a prequel, as it takes place before the events of 1969's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. In 1916, there was The Fall of a Nation, a sequel to D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation, and if we go way back to 1903, there was The Great Train Robbery, which was remade the following year in 1904 as The Bold Bank Robbery. The answer to why there are sequels and remakes is pretty simple. If people liked one movie, then continuing that film's story or reimagining that film's story means that you have a built-in target audience. There's less risk of not turning a profit compared to a movie with an original narrative. Moviegoers know who Spider-Man is, so a Spider-Man movie is guaranteed to make money. Compare that to something like The Lobster, a movie about a man who has 45 days to find a romantic partner, or else he'll be turned into a lobster. The target audience for something like that is a lot more limited. You may be thinking, well, that's just a weird indie movie. What happens to original movies like The Goonies or Die Hard? Well, even though the Hollywood machine has been keener on producing endless superhero movies, there are still movies like Die Hard, but oftentimes nobody goes to see them. A lot of the time, profit is valued over quality, so a sequel will be a retread of a story that's already been done. Horror movie franchises can be especially guilty of this. As Joe Bob Briggs said of the Friday the 13th series,
"These Friday the 13th guys, they've made the same movie 9 times. That takes talent."
And what about adaptations? There are countless movies based off of books, or, in worst cases, video games, so they're technically not an original idea either, even though they can significantly differ from the source material. A sequel done correctly should surprise the audience, build upon the world of the original work, and develop the characters further. A sequel done incorrectly, for the most part, will follow the same beats as the original work. With remakes, if they take an original idea and do it differently, then there's a lot of potential. The Empire Strikes Back expands upon the ideas presented in the first Star Wars movie. Luke Skywalker gets further along in his journey to become a Jedi Master, Han Solo and Princess Leia develop a romantic relationship, and Darth Vader's character becomes more than just a bad guy in a mask and a cape. In the Ghostbusters reboot, on the other hand, some scientists are kicked out of their university positions, find a place to set up shop, meet with the mayor when ghosts are unleashed on the city, defeat the villain, and close a portal to save the day. In other words, nothing new was fundamentally added to that which was introduced in the original Ghostbusters. But, just as a continuation could be too similar, a continuation can also suffer from deviating too much from the original. It's usually best to strike a balance between the old and the new. Remakes are usually more flexible with this, as the more they reimagine the old, the more interesting the retelling tends to be. Recently, the term soft reboot has made the rounds, describing a film that takes place in the universe of a film series, re-establishing that universe, but still being different. Star Wars The Force Awakens and Jurassic World both take place in the Star Wars and Jurassic Park universes, respectively, but they follow new characters, and often, established characters will pass the torch to new ones. Sequels and remakes all have the capacity to be good or bad, as all films do. But if you make a sequel, a remake, whatever, put a twist on it. Make the Terminator a hero. Have somebody face many aliens instead of just one. Because if it's just the same story twice, then why bother watching it?
Do the same thing as last time. Everyone's happy.
So, no, Hollywood isn't really out of original ideas. There are plenty of sequels, remakes, and cinematic universes in theaters, yeah, but if you're interested in more original ideas, then you just have to take the risk of buying a ticket.
Hallelujah.
Or, you know, you could just go see the next 20 Avatar movies.